Hey viewers, my name's Cara. I'm recording this in May of 2022, but I don't think it's going to get posted maybe until June, unless I get it right at the end of May. We'll see. But it occurred to me, I had been thinking about this before, and then I forgot midway through the month, and then I remembered again just recently that this month is the 10-year anniversary of my college graduation. So I've been out of school for a full decade now, which is ridiculous. And I had made myself a list of things that have happened over the last decade that I was going to talk about, but I decided to just try to record this video real quick before I head into work, and I forgot to bring the list with me. It is also very hot today, so I didn't want to have the AC still on because it's going to be noisy, so I have my fan instead. I'm not going to remember all of the details, and that's okay, because I don't want to go into all the details, but I just wanted to talk a bit about, the last decade, and I haven't had time yet to, go and try to look through photos, to find, pictures from 10 years ago, to do, a then and now. Haven't done that yet, so that's probably not going to be in this video or anything, but 2012 is when I graduated, May of that year. I had just gotten back from England and Wales because I went on a 3-week study abroad trip that took us to England and Wales, and we got back literally 2 or 3 days before graduation. So I had to be kind of mostly ready, most of my stuff already packed up and ready to graduate before I left for England. Luckily, I didn't go to school very far away from home, so it wasn't like I had a ton of stuff, and I had already brought some stuff back to the house, to my mom's house at the time, things that I wouldn't need in those last couple of days. And then I graduated, and it was a really hot day that day too. It was outdoors, and I moved that year because my mom also moved shortly after I graduated out of state. And she's been living out of state ever since then, so it's been about a decade that she's been not here as well. And the first time I ever got to go out there and visit her since she moved was this past year, 2021. My brother and I took a road trip out there together to see her. So that happened within the decade. I moved multiple times, so I lived by myself for a little while first, then I lived with my brother and his dad, then I lived with someone that I had known before. We thought it was going to be a friendly, we both need a roommate situation, but it turned out to be terrible because they're an abusive human being. And so I finally got them out of there and lived by myself again for a little bit after that, and then moved to the city and moved again, not directly in the city. So I've moved multiple times. I've lived with multiple people. I was dating someone at the time of graduation who I was still with for a couple years after graduation, but then that relationship ended. So I've had a few relationships in the last decade and a few different jobs. So when I first left after I graduated, what was I doing right away? What did I do? Oh no, I lived with my grandma for a little while first before I lived by myself. Duh. All right, so I'm confusing the timeline already. So I lived with my grandma for a while, and I was working in housekeeping for a medical facility at first. Then when I moved into another place by myself, that's when I was working at the Victorian Tea Parlor, and I worked there for about 2.5 years. I was also working part-time at the community theater. I was a stage manager, mostly, but I also acted, but acting wasn't a job. Acting is volunteer at a lot of the community theaters here, but I got paid when I stage managed, so I mostly did that. I sometimes directed, but not usually, until later when I went other places. I directed other places. But the theater where I was working, I was mostly a stage manager, and I was there the whole time. I was also working at the tea parlor. Then I left the tea parlor, and I was just working at the theater and trying to do my own thing, YouTube, readings, all of that, which, by the way, I am still doing. Been here on YouTube for over a decade as well. That started in college, so not even just when I graduated college, but been over a decade for that. Then what did I do? I was working for a professional home cleaning company for a little while part-time because doing my own thing full-time did not kick off right away. Still has not. Still does not support me 100%. So I was doing that for a little while, but not very long, just a few months, kind of just a seasonal thing. Then when we moved to the city, I worked at a little vegan cafe on the west side of Cleveland for a little while. That cafe is no longer really vegan. They have some vegan options, but it was 100% vegan when I started working there, and then it changed a lot. But so I did that for a while, and I really enjoyed it while I was there. But I ended up moving again anyway. I was moving a little more outside the city, so it was also going to be too far for me to drive. But I had already started getting into contact and kind of getting to know the people at the Buckland Museum. So I started working at the Buckland Museum within this decade. I've been here for 3 years now, or it'll be 3 years next month, June, or so. Maybe this is getting posted in June. In June, it'll be 3 years since I taught my first class at the museum. In October, it'll be 3 years since I started officially working like in the gift shop. And then I don't remember when I started giving tours, but basically like I was an employee as of October of 2019. Before that, I had just taught a couple classes. So I've been working at the museum. So yeah, had multiple jobs, lived multiple places, multiple relationships, got to finally travel to go see my mom, did a road trip with my brother. That's something we had never done before. I'm also wearing my Pentacles of Pride t-shirt today, which is from an event that I went to. Conway, Arkansas had their first ever inaugural Pagan Pride. And that was, I'm pretty sure this trip was in 2013. So that was within the last decade. I didn't wear this on purpose. I just happened to be wearing it. I wanted to wear it today because it's been warmer outside. There goes EMS. Send them some positive vibes for whoever they're helping. So yeah, I went to Arkansas. I did several, I got involved in reclaiming in the last decade too, because I went to my first witch camp in 2015, but even before that, I was doing some of my own work through some of the reclaiming texts, Spiral Dance and the 12 Wild Swans, namely at the time. I worked through those. Spiral Dance I went through by myself, I think in 2012, possibly 2011, 2012, like basically at the end of college is when I finally went through that, and that's when I had finally read Drawing Down the Moon by Margot Adler for the first time. Then I went through the 12 Wild Swans work by myself for the first time in 2013. And I remember that because I'm going through that book again right now with my local group. So I'm looking at my old notes. So I know that they're dated. I know that they were in 2013. Then I went to my first witch camp in the reclaiming tradition in 2015, started going to workshops and classes in 2016. So I would drive myself to classes. I've driven myself to Virginia. I used to drive to Michigan a lot, but that was for a relationship, not for classes and things. And going to be doing a little bit more of that. I've driven to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is not a far drive at all from Cleveland. We are very close neighbors, just a couple hours. So I did a lot of that stuff myself to kind of progress my involvement in that tradition. Took all my core classes, took my last core class, I think it was in 2020. It was an online class. And then I started student teaching the Elements of Magic class in 2021 and 2022. And so now I am also a teacher, which is very cool. So some stuff has changed. I don't currently work in theater anymore, not just because of the pandemic. I had actually stopped before that for mental health reasons and then just never got back into it. And then the pandemic happened, so I still haven't gotten back into theater. Also the fact that they don't really pay that well. And like now I work at the museum, things that do pay well enough are kind of like you have to be there all of the time. You have to like give your life to the theater, and that's not something that I really want to do anymore. But I'd like to still act in a show here or there again in the future. Like I still love that. So if I can make it work, I will. But right now it's not my top priority. And I use my skills, my theater skills constantly, both at the museum as a tour guide and just in ritual in general. Theater and ritual are very connected for me. And what else was I gonna say? Yeah, so like I'm not currently working in theater, and I don't work at the medieval fair anymore. I used to work at the medieval fair every summer, and that's also something that I can't really make happen alongside the other work that I currently do. But I am hoping to attend the medieval fair this year at least. And my alarm just went off letting me know that it is now time for me to walk to work. I got here a little early so I could record. So I've got to go. Thanks so much for watching and or listening to this video. Let me know what you've been up to in the last decade, or since you stopped going to school, whenever that was for you. So it might just be a couple years, it might be longer than a decade. I will see you next time. Until then, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.